spoke about, an hour ago. Malcolm Butler placed on the reserve/retired list, and we're down to our final 53. Alex Clancy, Bo Brock, bonus content. Let's go. Locked on Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, we're back. Alex Clancy, Bo Brock, Locked on Cardinals, little bonus podcast here on the heels of the final 53 being set. Malcolm Butler, according to Field Yates of ESPN, being placed on the reserve/retired list for the Arizona Cardinals. The reasoning as to why is still unclear, but Bo, at Bob Reck on Twitter, me at Clancy's Corner. Follow the podcast at Locked On AZ Cards. Please like, subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, Locked On Cardinals. We're back. Bo, before we go down the list, we're going to say right away, there's no surprises here. From what we've seen on the list for the final cuts, no big names have been cut, which, I think was pretty much expected. But, Bo, let's talk about Malcolm Butler first. Thoughts on this happening in seemingly less than 24 hours?
It's the old Anchorman quote. It's like, that escalated quickly, didn't it? I mean, you went from having a guy that you thought was going to hold down at least one of your starting cornerback positions, and it's no longer happening for the Arizona Cardinals. They have to immediately start to scour the NFL for options as far as adding depth to their cornerback position, because Malcolm Butler, you don't even have to source it any longer. I mean, the Arizona Cardinals, it was part of them in their roster reduction press release saying that they've placed Malcolm Butler on the retired reserve list, and he's not going to start the season as a member of this organization. I don't know if we ever will see him. And now you start to look at, okay, who could be the successor to P2 now? Who becomes the option, plan B? And it immediately all eyes turn to Byron Murphy, the third-year cornerback, having to take a monumental step forward for this organization. And the expectation, it changed during the preseason. You saw that he could play outside, but now he's going to have to play outside, and he's going to have to play at a high level because right out of the gates, it's A.J. Brown, it's Julio Jones, it's Ryan Tannehill, and that play action pass that's terrifying.
Yeah, and week 2's Adam Thielen and Stephon Diggs. It's not like not Stephon Diggs. Sorry, Justin Jefferson. It's not like it's fantasy football's in my brain. It's not like it gets easier at any point this season. They have a home game against Houston. That's pretty much the only game this year where you could pencil it in week 3. Now it just brings things into question where you go to Jacksonville. Can you get weird with Laviska Shenault really emerging as a rising star from the wide receiver position, DJ Chark? It could be a lot worse than what Jacksonville has rolling with them with James Robinson toting the rock. So it's not going to be easy out of the gates, and the Cardinals need to figure it out now. So let's shift here. So the Cardinals do not take a corner at 16. Greg Newsome, Caleb Farley, among others, were available at 16. They chose to go inside linebacker out of Tulsa, Zaven Collins. So it may have been the right choice for a team that was ready in the cornerback position. It probably still is going to be the right choice. By all accounts, we've seen Zaven Collins is going to be a stud in this league. We saw it almost immediately. Matthew, we'll get to that name momentarily. You brought up Drake Kirkpatrick. We'll talk about that in just a second. But now, I think all-round picks have to be on the table. I think if you're going to make a move before the season starts and get somebody implemented into this defense that's not somebody that's 31 years old looking for a squad, looking to get a paycheck, I think everything needs to be open at this point. Mm-hmm. Because we've seen big-name guys. Xavier Howard obviously got paid. As you mentioned, you responded to one of our listeners and said that ship has sailed because he got what he wanted, at least in some capacity, from money regarding to the Dolphins. C.J. Henderson's there. Apparently, they cut his backup. So I would offer a first-round pick for C.J. Henderson in 10 minutes. You need a body in here that is going to elevate this roster. And I think first-round pick has to be on the table now.
And I think it is, and it will continue to be. Regardless if it comes out and things play out well in the first week of the season. Even if they come out and they're able to kind of contain that passing attack with Tennessee Titans, it still becomes a worry for the entire season, because we've seen sometimes, I mean, if you split up the NFL season now 17 games into quarters and you add an extra game somewhere along the lines, if you're looking at, every 4 games, you have to adjust. And your defensive secondary could be picked apart, even though it was a strong suit before that. The Arizona Cardinals, it's going to be an area of concern for the entire season long, unless they bring in somebody that's a bona fide, proven commodity at this level, because you never know. I mean, we were encouraged by Marco Wilson. We've been encouraged, at least encouraged by Tay Gowan, who made this roster. It's going to be exciting to see those guys, because it's going to be trial by fire. But we all know that comes with potential lumps, learning curves, and that's going to certainly happen, and it could happen right out of the gates. What this really does say is that this front 7 has to be special. They don't just have to be good. They have to be special. And that's why you pay J.J. Watt a ton of money. That's why you kind of backed up the Brinks truck to him after he ended his tenure in Houston, because he has to be disruptive. Chandler Jones, who we haven't seen anything from this preseason, has to be disruptive. He has to turn back the clock. And Zaven Collins and Isaiah Simmons have to be just machines at the linebacker position, but they also have to help in coverage, because it's going to be paramount with being down.
It's the tough part about this is, and luxury is not the right word that I'm about to use. It's not the right word, but I'm going to use it because I can't think of anything else. Having J.J. Watt on the field for 17 games would have been a bonus. It's something. You bring him in for a culture shift. You bring him in for leadership. You bring him in, obviously, for his play on the field, but you don't necessarily need him to gut it out for 17 weeks if you have other veteran positions in place. Would you want him to play healthily all the way through? Of course. But now it's imperative that he plays as many games as possible. This isn't like take a week, the rest of the defense can form around it. You need J.J. Watt and Chandler Jones to keep the offensive line of the opposing team honest, so the pass rushers can eat. The other pass rushers can eat. Like, now, if anybody gets injured, this could be the Armageddon situation.
Yeah.
And I know that Malcolm Butler wasn't he's not what he was years ago. Okay. But that doesn't mean that he wouldn't have been an integral part of a waning portion of this roster. And that's what we're looking at now.
The defensive secondary was not brutal last year. Like, Patrick Peterson was not himself, not the guy that we, really watched.
He was a B-.
He was an average to maybe below average cornerback, but what Malcolm Butler gave you the ability to do is return at least the status quo in production, and not necessarily say, okay, there is a weak spot as far as this defense. And now, just like the running back room, there's unproven commodities all over that place, and you need it to go absolutely 100% what you predict. And that's not, I don't think that's a way to exactly run a business. Yeah, there are guys that pop any given season in the NFL, but to have to rely on like Chase Edmonds in the run game and then Byron Murphy in the cornerback room to take a monumental step forward, it's not smart business. So, but at the same time, you can't blame the Arizona Cardinals for thinking, okay, well, we're going to sign this guy, Malcolm Butler, and he's going to retire before the season. I mean, this was an absolute, just, I'm sure, blindsided hit to the organization, less than 2 weeks away from the opener.
But let's not lose sight of, if somebody chooses family over football or whatever he's choosing, let him. Yeah, let him. Like, you can't fault somebody for retiring at any point, because they're done with the grind of football. You got to understand that. Alex Clancy, Ballpark, Locked on Cardinals. We'll come back to one quick segment. We'll update you on the 53-man roster, the final cuts. First, rockauto.com. Rockauto.com never lets you down. Rockauto.com is a family-owned business. They've been online for 20 years. They allow you to maneuver around going to a chain storefront, asking questions, and looking dumb like I've done myriad times in my life when I honestly don't know what to do with my car when things go wrong. Just go to rockauto.com. You can search in the search box for whatever you need. Carpet, paint, whatever, tail lights, whatever the hell you want. Rockauto.com's got you covered. Prices are reliably low. You don't get upcharged for not being a manufacturer, which is fantastic. So go to rockauto.com, write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need. rockauto.com. One thing Bo and I are both good at is watching TV. That's one thing we're both good at, right?
Absolutely. And we want to tell you about a simple way to get all of the entertainment that you love without the hassle. DirecTV Stream brings you live TV and on demand. Your favorites, they come together. They merge together like never before, which means you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place with DirecTV Stream. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So stop waiting to get your TV together. With DirecTV Stream, you can learn more. DirecTV.com. That's DirecTV.com.
All right. A quick little segment here. Alex Clancy, Bo Brock, just wrapping up after we did about 45 minutes early, which was fantastic. We were answering people's questions. We love it. Thank you to everybody who's interacting. Follow him at Bob Brock. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. Please, subscribe, tell your friends, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll be doing a halftime show at the halftime of every game this regular season. Tell your friends. It's going to be fun. We'll answer all your questions. We'll recap the first half. Hopefully it'll be more positives than negatives. It is yet to be determined. The final 53 people, human beings, have been named to the Arizona Cardinals roster. Not a big surprise. Bo and I talked about on our podcast earlier today. The buzz names would be Chris Trevler, Andy Isabella. They both make the roster. They do. Yeah. And, Benjamin and Jonathan Ward. And we thought that, that was probably going to be right. I think that, Benjamin has deserved some time on this active roster after not being active at all of last season. He might be the surprise of the offseason so far. I mean, if you're not counting, Marco Wilson popping and guys like that, Rondell Moore. But Bo, some names of note: Chris Banjo, who was a fixation for the organization last year; Kylie Fitz, backup linebacker, who showed some promise at times last year. Coda Martin is a name that we've heard from time to time. Josh Morrow, who's been on this organization, he's been on this roster 38 times at this point. Ross Travis, who still sounds like a country star. Former basketball player, did not make the roster playing tight end, even though he's
not a tight end.
Pass.
Yeah, he's everything but a playmaking tight end, and that's what you need him to be, unfortunately.
Right, exactly. Jace Whitaker, who got a lot. They took a very, very deep look at him. He got a lot of snaps. Got a lot of snaps during the preseason, not making the roster. And then, Bo. I mean, Victor Dimukeje is a win out of Duke. As a linebacker, he's gonna rush the passer some. He popped. He had a fumble recovery during the first preseason game, I believe. So Steve Keim, only 2 players that he drafted this draft didn't make the roster. Is that a win?
Sure. Yeah, I mean 7th round picks. Hopefully a guy like James Wiggins.
Tate Allen made the roster, which was the other one that we were.
Yes, yeah. So you had your 2 7th rounders that you did cut them. And Michael Manette and also James Wiggins. And we'll see if either one of them end up on the practice squad. That's going to take some time as they make their way through that process. The international exemption no longer a part of the team, and Bernhard Seikovits. So it was fun to see the moment with him just kind of standing there on the field with another international player. And, can you believe this? And I'm smiling ear to ear. That's great. But there was a novelty that there wasn't an ability for him to make an impact on this roster. I mean, the big one, the surprises were yesterday. It was Banjo, it was Keyshawn Johnson. Things kind of pretty much went exactly how you expected them to go today. As you mentioned, Isabella, I think his roster spot was safe for the entire camp. He didn't even play in the preseason. He didn't play in either of the 2 games. So, I mean, this was a guy that his fate was pretty much decided, as he's a third-year player, a long time ago. It didn't matter what he did in the preseason. So we'll see. It's going to be big for them to figure out this cornerback room in the next couple of weeks, week and a half. Just some interesting things coming out as far as Isaiah Simmons and his ability, his cover ability. Can he play a little safety? Can he cover corner? He's going to be asked hopefully to do so and supplement that. But at no point are you going to see him just be like, if he has to cover a wide receiver too, that's not going to help. It's not going to help.
Yeah. Speed is different when you're moving. Yeah, speed is different when you're backpedaling and not running forward.
Yeah,
cornerbacks are special athletes.
Go ahead. 46 is the game day roster. 53, obviously, the guys you can carry. So Chris Trevler, we'll see if he's even active on game days. You feel comfortable with Colt McCoy. I'm glad that we didn't even mention Cam Newton today. Colt McCoy is the best option as far as backup quarterback. And then Strevler, I don't know if they'll re-implement the Strevler package like they did earlier last season, but he's going to be on the roster as of right now. And we really no surprises at all. I mean, Demetrius Harris, maybe a guy who's a add to this tight end room. Another guy that used to play hoops. Maybe they liked his athleticism because you're looking for a playmaking tight end. We'll see what happens with this organization, what direction they go there.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, and Bees brings up an interesting, just a name, and our boy Ross Jackson, our fearless leader from the Locked On NFL portion of the Locked On Podcast Network. They've been trying. Do you remember this when the offseason started? They were however many millions of dollars over the cap, and now they're a normal functioning franchise again. Ryan Ramczyk, I think there was a lot of restructuring involved, obviously. They're not paying their quarterback $70 million, whatever they're paying Drew Brees last year, so that helps. But Marshawn Lattimore is a name that's brought up. Like, here's the thing. If you want to bring a corner in for this year who's already under contract or who you're willing to extend, that's shown flashes and that's shown could be upside, cornerback one upside, you may have to overpay it. Like, this is the bed you made yourself by trusting that Malcolm Butler and Byron Murphy and Robert Alford and Marco Wilson were going to be enough. Like, would you give a first round pick for Marshawn Lattimore right now? Because he had a great rookie year, great second year, and he's kind of dropped off a little bit since.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't. I mean, that would be purely out of panic and knee-jerk reaction. I mean,
well, shouldn't there be a little panic?
I mean, no. There should be. Hopefully, they have a plan in place, and nobody's going to buy into it. Like, the only person that has to buy into it is the organization, and they're going to do what they want. For whatever reason, they felt comfortable with these corners. It's the theory of insanity as far as Robert Alford, but they believe in Robert Alford. And, here's your starting corners now for the season opener. Potentially it's Byron Murphy. It's Robert Alford because he's been able to stay healthy for the first time as an Arizona Cardinal through camp and survive and get to the regular season. We'll hold our breath there. And then Marco Wilson Gowan can be on the back end of that. And maybe help out in, when you got more defensive backs on the field. So, the safeties are solid. It's the cornerback room that's going to be the biggest thing that everybody, and there's across the board, as we had our roundtable with our other NFC West hosts, there isn't a lot of, beyond CB1, everybody else has question marks as well.
Yeah, no, it's true. But I mean, I believe
which is wild.
I believe there's only 4 cornerbacks on the roster right now. So if one more goes down, like, it's not ideal.
Imagine that they're not done. Like, this is a placeholder. This 53-man
it's a
roster.
purge day. Yeah.
So now you sift through it. You pick up the pieces. You see what's left. You see, hopefully it's not Desmond Trufant. He had an under 40. He had a 38 PFF last year.
But you need bodies. I mean, you need bodies of people that have played before.
Yeah, but I mean, if they're target practice for opposing quarterbacks, it's not worth it. I mean,
well, and Matthew brought up earlier that Drake Kirkpatrick, it could be worse. I think you can't have him be your CB1, but he showed flashes last year. He had a couple picks. He got lit up he was on DK Metcalf, or he was on Tyler Lockett, right, during the Sunday Night Football game where he just got absolutely abused.
It was like 12 of 13. It was crazy.
Yeah, they need to bring in some warm bodies that have played football before. Because they're too young in the cornerback room, and 2 of them are rookies.
There's too much. They're just relying way too much on their guys to do what they
Robert Alford to play.
I know. It's absolutely wild. It doesn't make sense to me. And as you pointed out, 4. I mean, that's the minimum, isn't it? I mean, you can't have less than that. Yeah, so expect a move. Obviously, will they bring back some of the guys we've seen here before? Possibly, but who is it outside of Desmond Trufant? We haven't seen a ton of them. And you also have to open it up. So maybe you view Byron Murphy now as no longer an inside guy, as an outside guy. Could you look for an inside corner? You just need anybody.
Yeah, you need
anybody with experience. Yeah,
and it's good. There's 12 games left, 12 days left until the season, so at least they've got some time. Jesus,
and then 17 games. To make sure that this 4-person room can stay together and stay healthy. But at least the good thing is that's your forte of your defensive coordinator is the DBs. So. He's got at least
he's gonna have to suit up,
guys.
I mean, what
he was a running back.
I don't care.
Back in college.
I know. Alex Clancy Bobrock, Locked On Cardinals. Thanks to everybody watching. Follow him at Bob Brock. Follow me at Clancy's Corner. We will be back to our regularly scheduled program tomorrow. Be posting early. You'll see it.
Unless somebody else retires.
Yeah.
What the hell's going on?
Unless they trade Cliff Kingsbury for a cornerback or something. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.